Do you know anything about witches? Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
Yes.
I do.
Something Rob Zombie lyric witches.
Dig through the ditches.
Yeah, this is just the Rob Zombie episode.
Oh man, we need to
Yeah.
do one at some point where we just talk shit about all of his movies.
We should record it inside of the big monster mobile, and we're all like doing the like head nod thing from the Dracula video.
I am in.
I feel like that would be a very polarizing episode. I think our stance on him is pretty clear at this point, but I know a lot of people really like him, so I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people also like Trump, so
Oh, true. They're pretty much the same, right?
yes.
Anyways, this is not about
yeah.
zombies. So if you
This-
came for that, you can turn it off.
This is episode 74 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I'm Katie.
And this week we're talking about witches and Mother Suspirium. Both we're going to listen to Katie talk about two movies she had not seen before, both Suspirias. And
One 8 hours longer than the other.
yes.
Oh goodness. I literally just finished the 2018 that it came out?
Yeah.
The 2018 version, like 10 minutes before. So what a journey, you guys.
I started it at like 10 last night. I was like, oh fuck, I forgot this is like 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Okay, so here let's do this real quick since we don't know Katie's stance. Don't totally know mine on two for the most part yet after a second rewatch. Let's say, Kit, what's your experience with like both of them?
So it's kind of opposite, honestly. The first time I saw the original, like, I thought it was okay, wasn't really a fan, but the more I've watched it, the more I've grown to love it. So it's become like a pretty frequent watch for me. And then for 2018, I saw it in the theater, and I was like, this is really good. I really enjoy this. And last night was probably my third viewing of it, and it was the least I've liked it. It's just like,
weird.
Interesting.
There are chunks of it that I really like, and I mostly dig the atmosphere that it goes for. But I don't know, there's too much happening, and it just takes far too long to get anywhere, I guess.
So when like DVDs first became like started coming out, getting like, you know, becoming like the predominant media platform or whatever.
When DVDs existed.
I mean,
It's like so weird to think about that because like that's like you see those memes go around Twitter all the time where it's like, oh, well, you know, whatever, and one of them is like, what's the first DVD that you ever bought? And it's like so weird to me to like look back and be like, yeah, I existed for a long time when DVDs did not exist. For me, the first DVD that I bought was Interview with a Vampire, and at the same time, House on Haunted Hill.
mine was Hannibal, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and I think Legend.
Oh man.
Like
Nice.
all bought them used, and like the only thing I could play them on was like my mom's work laptop. Anyway,
Mine was Galaxy Quest.
about 600 years
Nice.
ago, when DVDs were popular, like Suspiria was one of the first, maybe like 20 I bought. And it was like, I didn't know what it was. It was like Suncoast. I would just like go look through their like horror section,
I miss Suncoast.
and they had it, and I was like, I don't know what this is. This looks interesting. And I bought it, and I watched it, and it made me extremely uncomfortable. as watching it most of the time still, both watching most Argento movies still does. Because like that first kill in it, I was like, oh, I was not prepared for this.
The close up of the heart getting stabbed is just like Jesus.
Yeah. And so like out of like the first time I watched the original, I was like, this is like really like beautiful to watch, but I was like, this just kind of makes me uncomfortable. So I did watch it like a lot when I first got it, and now it's like one of my favorite movies. Although like now I was reading, I didn't realize that what like the DVD I have, whatever the 40th anniversary they released, they like put in clips that were cut out for like when they released it in America to get it like an R rating before. So now I need to get the 40th anniversary one to see. There's like
cool.
Because there's like a weird jump that I don't know if it's fixed in the like the re-release or whatever, where like at that first kill, like she's like at the window and then all of a sudden she's like upstairs getting stabbed. So I don't know if there's something that like links those two in it. But anyway, this is one of those movies, the original, that's up there with me with like Alien and The Thing and like Dawn of the Dead. Like one of those like kind of like a basically like a perfect movie for me. Like I could watch it anytime now. Like it's just, I don't know, I love it. The remake I watched for the first time when it came to Prime, and I was just kind of like, I am not into this. This is weird. It's too long. I was like, I don't know. I was just like, I'm not into it. The second rewatch, I kind of love it. Now that like I think I was able to suspend that baggage that comes with like the Suspiria title.
Yeah.
Because this like the remake, it's not Suspiria other than it's witches in a dance school. Like it doesn't have any of the like, kind of trademarks of the, you know, original movie. And I don't, watching it the second time, kind of not having any of that sort of expectation in the back of my mind, and kind of already knowing like what the movie was about, I was able to enjoy a lot more of it. To where I'm curious to see like watching it again. Like I don't know, I liked it a lot more this time, I think.
That's something that I really appreciate about it, is that it doesn't try at all to be like the original. And it's just like, look, it's Susie, there's a dance school and witches, but that's about it. It's a very like muted color scheme. It's a much more dense movie. It kind of takes its time. It is, I mean, it's almost like a totally different film. Like you could have named it something else and you'd be like, it's kind of Suspiria-ish with the witches in the dance school, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's something I kind of want to talk about. Let's get Katie's thoughts and then we'll dive into like whatever. So what were your takes on them, Katie?
Okay. What a long journey. It took me all of 18 hours to watch both of these movies. I think this is actually my first Argento movie. I know, right? I know about a lot of his movies, but I've never seen any of them that I can think of. Like I went through his like whatever, and I don't think I've seen any of them. So this was my first one. So I guess I didn't really know what to expect. So I watched the first one yesterday, and we'll get into it. What I did was like took some really short notes on both of them and then had like a comparison for both. And so I think I'll start off by saying I did like the original. I don't know, when I first watched it, just because it was so long, I was kind of like, well, I guess it's not even that long. It's an hour and a half. Well, it felt really long to me. Because it does this thing that a lot of 70s movies do where, like, it's really, like, the most of the movie is, like, really drawn out and stretched, and it's, like, you know, meant to build up suspense and, like, to confuse you, because I kind of wish I didn't know that witches were involved at all, because then I feel like the ending would have been better for me, because like they do spend a lot of time building you up to being like, well, something weird's happening, but like you don't really know what the weird thing is, right? And then in the last like 20 minutes of the movie, all of a sudden your main character just like automatically figures out what's happening, and then like the ending just happens. And a lot of times you're like, what? Like just
That's
happened?
pretty Argento for the most part.
Right, but like I've been watching a lot of like 70s movies recently, 70s horror movies. I don't really know why. That's just like what I seem to be picking. And a lot of them are like that. So I think having already been primed by watching these other movies and just sort of like appreciating what they are and like sort of understanding that made me appreciate it a lot more. Whereas I feel like if I would have watched this movie a couple years ago, I don't think I would have liked it. So yeah, so original Suspiria gets thumbs up for me. I really liked it. But I think I also like when I watched it yesterday, I was like, yeah, this is okay. This was fine. And then I woke up today thinking that I liked it a lot more than I originally thought. So I'm gonna preliminarily say that the remake was like all right. There's some aspects of it that I really liked, but oh my god, it was like 4 hours long. For and I and to your point, Kit, it's like a completely different. It's like they watched the original and they're like, okay, well, we really like dancing and we like witches, but let's do like the opposite of everything that they did in the first one. So there were parts of it that worked for me, but there are parts of it that I'm just like, ew, why? And so I feel like maybe if I think about it longer, the same thing will happen where I'll have liked it more. I didn't dislike it by any means, but like, I don't know, it was all right.
It's interesting because I guess like I was reading trivia stuff on like IMDb about the remake because like I never really looked much into it. I just kind of watched it and I saw like reactions when it came out and kind of how like polarizing it was and shit. And
Right.
the director, Luca something, what is it?
I don't know.
Guadagnino?
Guadagnino, yeah, something like that. He did Call Me by Your Name, didn't he?
Yep.
He was basically just like, I don't want to remake it. He's like, I just want to take that kind of general idea of what Suspiria was and do like a reimagining of it, which is pretty. I mean, I think he kind of accomplished that. It's just, I don't know, like in my mind, like there's a lot of people that kind of do that with movies now that like remakes are just so like prevalent that I'm just like, but like why not just be like, okay, I want to do witches, and like you can do that and just not call it whatever, because then you're just like alienating like a huge portion of that base that's going to be like, well, this isn't Suspiria.
Well, so I sort of like I like wikied both of them. Well, after I watched the first one, I was like, maybe I missed something. I don't know. So I like Googled it and I read the synopsis and I was like, no, that's like exactly what happened. But I was reading that because I don't know. I feel like we'll get into it. I don't want to. So
Well,
and I read that
so go just go ahead.
well, I felt like the ending was sort of just like again typical. It was just kind of like, bam, this thing happened. The end, and I was like, why?
To the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like okay, but so then I was reading that it was like based off of this like prose story that apparently is by this like it was called something like one of the most like important pieces of prose ever written or some shit. And I took like a lot of advanced like literary classes in high school and I've never heard of this person, so I'm not really sure like if it's just because I think he was Italian maybe or something, so I don't know if it's really just like that. But it's based off of just like so like the original Suspiria was based off of just like a story in this like collection of prose, and I'm like really, and that's what he based. What is it called, the Mother trilogy?
Yeah.
The Three Mothers.
Yeah, Three Mothers.
Yeah, the Three Mothers. That's what Argento based these stories off of, and I found like a translation of it that I'm like really interested to read because I want to know like how much of it is from that story and like to what extent, because then maybe there's parts of the newer one that are I don't know, so that part to me I will see.
As far as I could tell, the only real like connection between the two is just the name and like a dance studio and that they're witches. Like,
Okay.
I guess also, did you? I asked for like questions, and Erica from Customers Also Watch asked if you caught the actor that's in both movies.
Oh, Jessica Harper?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Only because I love her. So.
it rules. Her like coming back for the sequel is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that was like really surprising because it was like way towards the end, and I was like, oh my god, I love when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't like. After the second rewatch, I kind of got a lot more respect for what they were trying to do with the remake. It is extremely long, like overly long, that you could probably cut a solid, like make it like a 2-hour movie instead of like over 2.5. But there's also like when I think about that, I'm just like, I don't know like what I would cut out, because it's like plot wise stuff moves along at like a like whatever pace, and then like, but like I also kind of like I like the dance stuff in it, so like cutting that kind of doesn't work. Like that's the one thing I really like in the remake that the original doesn't have is like the
Dancing.
well, no, like those dance scenes are kind of amazing. Like
Yeah.
the Susie Olga one like is like phenomenal.
Yeah, the thing that I thought was like really strange about the first one, like one of the notes that I wrote is not a lot of dancing, and then in the remake I wrote too much dancing question mark, because like
I guess you could probably cut out like a lot of the classroom stuff, because like that's just, I don't know, like it's just essentially just them grooming Susie, I guess. But I think
Yeah,
like,
and
the scene with like her and Olga, and then like the actual like performance, you kind of like have to kind of keep all of that because it's just like plays into what's happening.
yeah, I think one of the things that, well, first of all,
Also spoilers. if you're this far into it.
I meant to say that in the beginning, but like if people have listened to the podcast, I think literally the point of it is spoilers. So like,
I feel like I don't
Sorry.
know. Like I think about saying it every episode, then I don't, and then I'm just like, who gives a fuck? This movie is like 40 years old, but like I don't know. This one's pretty new, so I don't know.
No, how could you?
How dare you ruin Mirror Mirror for me?
right. I mean, you know what? I think about that like as someone who also listens to other like horror movie podcasts, and I pretty much go in like if I want to watch the movie, I don't listen to the podcast first. You know what I mean? Like I feel like whatever. Just put in the caption, this week we stand spoilers.
At this point, if it's not a Marvel movie, I don't give a fuck. You ruin it for me. I'm still end up watching it, but that's why I just go to like, the Marvel movies like the night they come out.
I pretty much I pretty much only see like those, and then I mean I like never go to the theater anymore. So I was saying, okay, so I think that the things that I appreciated about the new movie is that I think they did a much better job kind of conveying that they're grooming Susie, whereas in the original it's kind of just like some lady blinds her and then she passes out or something, and then like obviously they're putting stuff in her food to like make her pass out at night, like drug her, which I'm like not really sure why they were drugging her. I guess my question.
I can't remember if they go into it, but I think it's the same thing that's like happening in the remake, where they're like, I think they're doing that and like putting shit in her dreams or whatever.
Okay, I guess I just don't remember her dreaming, but
she does it. The weird thing with the original is like the first time you watch it until you get to the end, basically it's like it just plays out as like a normal kind of Argento like giallo movie, where like it just feels like it's, you know, a serial killer or whatever like throughout the entire movie, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh, I guess it was witches ?
Yeah, so that's my other question, right? It's like in the beginning, you have, well, her name was Patricia in the remake. Was that her name?
Yeah, that's
you
Chloe
have like the
Grace Moretz.
yeah. So you have her in the beginning, and she gets murdered by some kind of fuzzy creature, question mark, and then,
The bat.
is it
It's
a
a big
bat?
bat. No,
Oh.
I was just saying that.
I mean, it kind of like so all you see is just like a fuzzy arm and like claws or whatever. And then one of the other girls, shit, I did write their names down. Sarah, in the original, falls into a room full of barbed wire somehow,
Yeah.
and then somebody
The scene
stabs her.
bums me out so much.
Oh my God, and it's so long. She literally
Well,
just like rolls around in barbed wire screaming, and I was
I,
like,
I'd be interested.
Not the best way to escape barbed wire.
We'll have to
you
do
think not.
we'll have to do another episode where we have you maybe watch like another like couple Argento movies, because like it's, or just even like maybe some other giallo movies in general, because it's very like not great towards women, and also extremely like long extended like death scenes and very kind of like torturous. It's like one of the things that like I can't watch a lot of them at a time, because like they make me uncomfortable, but they're also always, well, not always, like Bava's stuff is good, Fulci stuff is good, like Argento's stuff is usually good. But like they
Are you excluding Dracula 3D?
I'm excluding Jennifer and Stendhal syndrome and basically everything he made after like opera. I don't remember where I was going with that, but yeah, out of like a lot of like it's a lot of the original is very Argento-esque, except like for like basically what he had done prior, with the exclusion of like witches and then the colors to it.
Yeah.
Like which like so like his idea is he wanted to make a movie that looked like a fairy tale. Like I think he said Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was like his kind of inspiration for the coloring to it, which is a pretty interesting idea, especially like around that time. Like no one else is doing that with like live action stuff, which made it. I ended up going to this like deep hole of researching like how, or like reading stuff about how he accomplished that, and how like it was almost impossible to get like film stock made that at that point that like could accomplish what he was trying to do, and how like a lot of it ended up getting damaged, and the process of like actually, you know, getting it from like the cameras to like, you know, be like a film roll is just like a completely like nightmare to do.
I believe it, but it turned out so like the things that I really appreciated about the original is obviously the soundtrack.
Oh,
I mean,
it's so good.
my only problem is, and you know, all movies do this. Specifically, I'm gonna pick out like Halloween. There's like two songs in the movie, and they play them over and over and over again. And even if the songs are really great, because they are very great, but to me, personally, it gets to be a bit much. So there's like sometimes where I feel like they didn't really need the song where it's like rah 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 rah, you know, like whatever.
It's just fucking Claudio like saying gibberish or witches underneath everything.
Yeah, so like to me, there was like some parts of it that I felt, I don't know, it was a little too much. But the soundtrack is great.
I wish that had played nonstop throughout the film.
I mean, it pretty much did.
I wish there was no actual score. It was just Claudio being like witches, witches.
Just like the same shit.
There's like Goblin is, I think, is up there with like Carpenter as probably like maybe like the top two for me as far as like scores go.
Yeah.
But they do a thing in like a lot of the movies, like Demons is like this as well, where there's like 7 songs for the entire movie. And so they end up they do that where like it replays kind of the same stuff, or stuff that sounds relatively the same throughout a lot of it. What did you think about the 2018 score? I feel like that's probably the more divisive one.
I didn't love it, to be honest with you. I thought that the song that they play for the ending, is it called the Vulcan dance?
Oh, during
Uh,
the climax scene or whatever.
when they're doing the actual dance, like for the audience.
Oh,
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
I thought that song was like pretty cool, and I did wish that I didn't expect it to have the same music, first of all. Like, I went in knowing this is like an updated well, it's like it is updated version, even though it's sort of like not super modern. But I did expect it to maybe not expect it. I wished it would have mirrored the original a little bit. But like, to be honest, the kind of music that they played in the movie is like not really music that I like. And I get, a lot of movies do this now, and especially like trailers and stuff where like there's a lot of like painful and like gross stuff happening, and they play this like really light kind of like coffee house sort of music, which is like, I get what they're going for, but for me it was like, I didn't hate it, but it didn't add anything to the movie from my perspective.
What do you think about?
I hated it.
Do you? I like it, but I also like Radiohead, so I'm kind of.
You would, Nathan.
I mean,
Yeah,
Radiohead's
I
good.
don't like Radiohead, so
I
I like some Radiohead, so I'm in the middle.
I like I like the tie-in of like it, the song I think it plays during the credits that like Tom York sings, which I think is a cover, I can't remember, but is like the song that not Susie, Patricia is like muttering to herself in the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
oh yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I like both of them. I think the Goblin one is obviously like far superior, but I do like. There's like some interesting, like weird things in like the remake one that I like as well.
I guess.
The one bit of score that I really did like was whenever it cuts to all of the like instructors like all together and they're having a vote for who should be the like head of the coven or whatever. There's that like weird kind of jazzy bass thing going on. I
Yeah.
really like that.
I guess for me in general, it's like I don't really care for like actual songs in movies, like with lyrics and stuff. I really prefer score, so like that's just like a personal preference.
There's some things that like that I think in the Tom York score, there's moments where like some of it borders on just kind of uncomfortable noise, and that's the stuff I kind of like more in it than that. I think the Goblin one doesn't totally do, but they're also like completely different for like two completely different movies and like feelings. So
Yeah,
not to necessarily compare two things that really don't need to be compared, I guess.
I mean, I think like for the original, I think you definitely need that sort of music. Like, I get why so the overlapping things that I thought were really interesting about these is like, obviously Kit already pointed this out too, I think, is that the sets are completely different. So while in the original one it's like super vivid, there's like a lot of white, or not white, there's a lot of red. They do this like really cool thing with like green lights also, and like pink, and like there's just like something is always crazy. Like the background of wherever they are is like super bright and crazy and like really ornate. And then in the remake, it's like super drab. There's like almost no color to anything, which like I get the point of it, because you also have like in the original, there's like almost no exterior atmosphere to the movie at all. It's just like you start with Susie and you follow her the entire time, and you don't know what's going on outside. Like, you don't know really like what year it is, if there's a war going on. And the remake is completely opposite, where you're like completely affected by the outside and by the like the war and stuff. So that the drab sets in that like really add to sort of like the oppressive, sort of like, I would say depressing, like atmosphere of the remake. So like those two polar opposite things, I think, really are like important to the movies.
I think oppressive is a good word for it.
Yeah, I think it's almost like Like the remake is almost almost makes you depressed, like watching it,
100%.
because it's like, and the director said specifically, like, he was just like, I'm not doing colors because it's so like attached to the original, and he's like, I'm just like, I'm going to make everything like is going to be taking place in winter. It's going to be like 70s, like after the wars, like, I'm going to make it as muted as possible. With, I think, like, the only really kind of bright stuff that happens is that like weird flashy light shit that happens with Susie towards the end.
Yeah.
Did
I don't.
I don't understand any of that, but
Okay.
so if that was going to be your question, don't ask.
Okay.
Did you notice in the original that if you look at like the way the doors are made, that a lot of the doorknobs are damn near like the height of their heads?
No, I didn't notice
So
that.
Argento's original idea was that he wanted it to be a kids like boarding school for dance.
Ah.
And people read the script and were just like, you can't make this movie with children. Like, he wanted them to be like 12.
Oh man.
And so that's why everybody.
Sort of bleak.
So basically, all he did is he just cast them all to be like 20. But you see, like, when you realize that, and then you see like how everybody in the movie acts. Like, everybody acts essentially like a child. Like, he didn't change any of that. He made it so the doors are like look bigger in comparison, so that like they look smaller, and then they all still act like children throughout the entire movie. Like, everything is like a fight, like getting them to go to bed or like whatever, like shit like that would happen with children.
That makes a lot of sense now, because there's a lot of scenes where I'm like, well, that was fucking weird. And I couldn't, so like what comes to mind is, so first of all, one of the big differences is that in the original, it's a co-ed dancing school, and in the remake, it is just all girls, quote unquote. So in the original,
it's
there's
co-ed, and as much as you see like maybe a dude in the school at any given time.
Right. Okay. So right. And they have like well, okay, so there's the creepy ass little boy who is like just like a nephew that runs around for no reason. And then there is I don't even know his name, but he's basically like the errand boy, because he's going to the school but he can't pay to stay there or something, which is like weird. So he like and I also don't really understand this part. So like when Susie first gets there, they're basically like, oh, like, we don't have a room for you. You can stay with Olga. She lives off campus or whatever. So she goes to Olga's, and she's like, wow, this place is really cool. And Olga is like, oh, and I gotta say, the first thing that I wrote for the original was ugh, dubbed, because some of the characters are dubbed. Which
there's the entire movie was made knowing they would dub it afterwards.
okay.
So like,
yeah,
like there's stories that like I think Jessica Harper has told about how the like Argento would play the score during the scenes on set, and he would play it uncomfortably loud.
Oh my god.
Just to like make like so.
And he wanted to do this to children.
The more you dig into Argento as a person, he is probably not super great, especially when you get into shit with like his daughter.
Yeah, I don't
know. Oh yeah.
Well, he shot his daughter appears in a lot of his movies. That a lot of times she's like nude and gets like raped in them, and it's not great.
I know you can't see my face, but I'm agape.
It's not surprising that she turned out to be super fucked up. But like, I don't know. There's like, he's got sort of this. I feel like a mindset that doesn't totally work with today's standards of treating people, but probably worked in like the 70s when nobody seemed to really give a shit of
Oh,
just
for sure.
like,
They used to do all kinds of shit to, especially female actresses, like that just it's not even I don't even think that you can say like, oh well, it's for the art. It's like they're mistreating people, like for sure.
yeah. But yeah, that's why it's like they shot the way like Argento was making it. He knew he was dubbing the entire thing afterwards, and there's like a
So like,
well, there's
sorry,
go ahead.
even the English is dubbed.
Yeah, there's like a lot
Okay.
of funny stories that came out of it where like Udo Kier's like, I think that's how you pronounce his name. His like
Yeah.
cameo in it, he could barely speak English and didn't understand like really anything he was saying, and like Jessica Harper was like tells a story about how she like when she's talking to him like on that bench that she like couldn't keep a straight face throughout most of it. Which is also funny because then when she's in the like she comes into the remake like they called her about doing it and she was like, yeah, I'll do it, and then she was like, shit, I gotta learn German, and had to like crash course learn German and like to do her scenes because she was just like, yeah, I know how to speak German.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. I totally. That's yeah. So okay, that part. I couldn't tell. Like I could tell. Like even it was one of those movies where it started and like I couldn't really tell if the actors and actresses were like actually speaking English, and I was like, it looks like they are, but it also looks fake. So like I couldn't really tell what was going on, and so I did appreciate that in the remake the people just like speak German because we shouldn't dub. Is all I'm saying.
Well, it's kind of the Italian horror stuff is all like that, where like it's made for like American audiences, but everything is like dubbed because the actors that are like in the movie could like barely speak like English, so it's like they're saying it but it sounds crazy, so it's all dubbed later. But one of my
so weird
favorite things in the remake is that all of the subtitles are like, if it's English it's just plain white, and if it's I think French was in blue and then German's in red.
Yeah.
Which is like a pretty interesting kind of way to add a little bit of color into the movie.
Yeah, I did notice that because Hilda, is her name Hilda?
Probably.
No, that's her real name.
Remember any of the names for the most part.
Tilda. No, that's her real name. Madame Blanc in the remake. My bad. Is like you know, whatever. People know who she is. I actually didn't know she was in this movie, so then when I saw her, I was like, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Tilda Swinton?
Yeah.
Oh, she's so good.
She says something like, if you want to learn how to dance, then you have to speak French. And then like randomly later, Susie just like speaks French, and I was like, okay. Anyways, going back. So Susie is at Olga's apartment, and the errand boy, Mark, no, I don't know what his name is. Daniel?
In the original?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
He like shows up and like has her stuff or whatever, and she's like, oh, whatever. And so like they immediately are like flirting with each other, and Olga's like, he's really cute. And whatever. So then after, oh my god, I'm so glad that this scene was not in the remake. But I just wrote maggot brush. That's all I'm gonna say. So after, which like I still didn't even get why this happened, but so then after that, right?
I think it's just
like,
a way to make something
funsies
look crazy, basically, and to
oh my gosh,
torment women.
Yeah, so basically, like, I have such an aversion to maggots. Like, I'm gonna throw up thinking about it. But basically, there's like a scene where like maggots literally are just like raining from the ceiling, and so the lady's face is just like, oh, we had a crate of food up there, and I was like, that doesn't happen in like a day. So I don't really know. Was it maggots? Was it dead people? Like, I don't really understand that part. But after that, they're just like, oh, yeah, let's all go sleep in the auditorium. And there's like this, they put up all these sheets and turn on a red light behind it, which like the whole visual of that actual scene is like really cool. But then the guy is like standing somehow like on above. So his head is just on the sheet, and he's like waving down at Susie, and he like blows her a kiss. And then he like goes. I don't know. The whole thing was just like really weird to me, and I was like, I don't really understand what's happening. But if I think of it from the scope of them being like children, then like a lot of the weird stuff like that like makes a lot more sense. Because otherwise, I was just like, what?
I didn't like I think until you like hear that like fact, you just watch the movie and you're like, wow, these people are making some weird choices on how to like portray these characters.
Yeah, yeah. And the dialogue, and another thing about the original that like I think for me is true of a lot of like older movies like this is that the dialogue is just so weird. Like the things that people say to each other, I'm just like nobody has like this doesn't. I don't know. So obviously in the remake, the script is like normal for the most part. There are weird things that happen, but
I think that's a very Italian thing too. Like
yeah,
dialogue in a lot of Italian horror movies is very jarring and bizarre.
Yeah, like it's the one I come back to a lot, but like Demons is just very like all of the dialogue is either clunky or specifically written to what I think they think American people in movies talk like.
yeah, that's a good description of it.
All right, let's talk about the kills in these movies.
Murder.
So
The
there's
must-duck.
a lot more in, I guess not a lot more, but more in the original that, or I guess at least, I don't know how to put it. Like, the originals
Well,
I feel like are more interesting, but then I'm like, oh, I don't know, that Olga scene in the remake is pretty fucking dope. But, so Katie, what did you think about, let's talk about the original first, like the kills in the original.
I thought that they were pretty cool. Like the special effects or practical effects, like some of them were sort of weird, but like I get it was made like in the 70s, so I think that they did a really good job for what I feel like they had. Especially seeing some of these other 70s movies where there's kills and I'm like, wow, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. I feel like they did a pretty good job. So the first one we pretty much already talked about where Patricia gets her heart stabbed, but not really sure how her chest cavity was open. So
Just through all the
maybe,
stabbing, all the other stabs opened up that stab hole
yeah.
for more
So
stabbing.
Nathan, so let me know if they actually did take, because I was really confused. Because like first of all, she's just like looking out the window, and then a hand just like smashes her face through it, and then all of a sudden she's like on a terrace or something, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that scene is
And then
always,
her chest cavity's open.
that scene's always kind of been, I've always been like, well, this is like a weird kind of jump, but
So yeah, she gets.
that the shit where like they show like her gets stabbed in the heart where it's like exposed, like fucked me up like the first time I watched it.
So brutal.
It is like it just seems so much worse. Like
Well, yeah, because like I don't think you see a lot of like scenes where someone's chest is just open and somebody directly stabs their heart. I don't feel like I've seen that a lot. Oh, that poor girl. She got stabbed for like 20 minutes and then she got like thrown through a ceiling window and then she got hung like
it's so if you're gonna watch Italian giallo movies, just be prepared for women getting smashed into windows. And I guess getting stabbed a lot.
The part of this scene that I did think was pretty cool, and this does a thing too where I don't know if this is in all of them or if they just made this choice because of the coloring in this movie. The blood is like bright red. It's just like paint with water in it. It's like very, very red.
It's I don't know, like I think it's just how blood was made and filmed in the 70s, because like Dawn of the Dead's is very much like that as well.
Yeah,
like it's just that weird, yeah, it essentially just looks like red paint.
Yeah, it like literally. And then the thing that I thought was cool about this is that I don't know her name, but the lady who Patricia was trying to like get to help her, like first of all, that whole thing was weird to me because like Patricia's like in her room screaming, and that lady's just like, "A murderer! A murderer's here!" And she's just like banging on the same door, like, "Help, a murderer!" And I was like, "Lady, you know." Anyways, so she like runs downstairs and sees Patricia like come through the sky window, and it like does this thing where it shows Patricia. So Patricia like falls and then gets like hung as she falls, right? And it's like very dramatic. And then they do this like panning shot of like Patricia and the floor, and then you see that this lady has just been like impaled in the head by glass. And the scene is so cool because she's like laying on the ground and it's like completely white, but then the window was like stained glass, so there's just like plops of color around it, and then she's like dead. But that like opening shot I was like thought was really, really cool. But then the rest of the deaths to me were sort of just like, I don't know, like the barbed wire thing was terrible because she was rolling around in barbed wire. Like,
apparently that, because like, you know, you could even see it in a lot of the shots. Like, there's no barbs on it, obviously. But I guess,
right, well,
I guess it would like constantly like tighten around like her ankles or like her wrist, and like was not fun. Like, I've seen like stories where she's just talked about how shitty that scene was to film. I also like
amazing you can make like non-barbed wire like as bad.
Yeah. I just like that, like, my favorite thing in that scene is that she like walks into the room, and then apparently the door she's walking from is like 20 feet in the air. And she like doesn't see this room full of barbed wire. She just steps off and is like, "Oh, I'm just gonna land on the ground and be fine from like 20 feet in the air."
Forgot about the barbed wire pit room.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, you gotta have that at a dance school.
Yeah,
I guess so. And then she gets like stabbed also, I think, right?
She gets her throat slit.
Okay.
everyone gets stabbed.
That scene, and then like
I mean,
fucking
I'm watching the movie.
Saw 2 that's got the fucking pit of needles.
Oh,
Those are the two worst things ever.
Yes. That is like one of the Saw death things or traps that like sticks with me because I can't even. And then we have the guy that gets attacked by his dog. That was pretty gross. I didn't. Was that it? Except for at the end when
Think so?
Susie stabs
His mother Suspiria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so not really that many.
It feels like there's more because they're so like over the top, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot
you're just
go on for a very long time.
Which, to be fair, so does this one with Olga in the remake.
Yes.
But it's also incredible to watch.
Also,
a lot of urine in the remake.
So much piss.
So, yeah, there's a lot. So, I feel like newer movies like do this thing where they just like add gross stuff for. I don't want to say shock value, but a lot of times it's stuff I feel does not need to be in it. Like, do we need to see her peeing into a cup? No.
Yeah, it's weird.
Do we? The idea of
need piss, not in a cup, but just like, there's a stabbing. Just pee everywhere. Just add more pee.
I mean, like, the idea of Olga, like, oh my god, first of all, I just wrote, ooh, Olga gets dance killed by Susie. So that whole scene was pretty cool. So basically, she gets the power. She, like, gives them... so at least in this movie, you're seeing, like, actual physical power things that happen. Because I always forget her name. Madame Blanche?
Blanc.
What if it was Blanche from
Blanche
The Golden
Duvier.
Girls?
I love that movie. Please give me that movie.
So Madame Blanc like touches Susie and gives her the power. So the other really weird decision that they made in this movie is the actual character of Susie herself, because in the original she's like it's classical ballet dancing, first of all. She is from New York, and she has like this high status and is trained because her aunt, I guess, is also a dancer. I think she says. And so then in the remake, you have Susanna, who is a nobody from Ohio, who doesn't have any formal training, and I guess like pestered them to give her an audition, so that she could come and dance, and then she dances and she's just like a crazy prodigy, and it's like this trope in movies where like somebody who's nobody turns out to be the one and like all that stuff, which like yes, I get it, but like
but they talk about how she had gone to see them before and like things happened when she was a kid that I feel like I guess the way I saw it is that she was sort of kind of being groomed for this.
like when she was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. There just is also a lot of talking in this one that I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it. Also, you find out about them being witches like right in the beginning, which to me, I don't know. If I was going into the remake for the first time, watching it and like not knowing what it's about, I like how the original one sort of like builds up to it
Waits
being
until
witches.
the last like 5 minutes to be like, oh, it was witches.
By the way, there's witches, and your school is a coven, and they want to kill you.
So Dakota Johnson spent 2 years before this movie was made learning how to be a ballet dancer.
Wow.
Which is a lot of work.
Also, I don't know what I don't know anything about dancing. I literally could never dance anything in my whole life. So the fact that's pretty cool. I don't really care for her as an actress, like personally. I mean, I feel like I don't know, but that's like very impressive. I don't. This isn't so they're not dancing ballet. I don't know what you would call this, but I don't know if anyone's seen. I think it's called the OA.
I saw like an episode of it, I think.
Netflix. They do in that. This isn't really a spoiler. They do in that show a really freaking weird dance where they're just like, it's like super jerky and like doesn't make sense, and they like grunt and yell and stuff a lot, which is like the dancing. That's like
how I dance.
I mean, yeah. So that's the kind of dancing that they do. It's like an interpretive, like very like aggressive sort of dance. And so I feel like because I had seen that show and that show was also so weird, it kind of took away from the dancing for me a little bit. Like when she first, I had no idea that like what the dancing was going to be like in this movie. And so when she shows up to do her audition is so uncomfortable because there's no music and it's just her like stomping around and like breathing really heavy, and it's just like so crazy to watch. So it is. So anyways, Madame Blanc like gives her these powers, and then she, first of all, also Olga's character is completely different. What even happened to her in the original? Like, after Olga, quote-unquote, kicked her out of her apartment, do you, like, ever see her again?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
I don't really remember either.
Yeah, so that part to me was, like, sort of weird. But, yeah, so, you know, Susie is, like, doing this crazy dance, and in another room, Olga is literally being, like, thrown against the wall and like getting contorted, which is like super gross. It's very gross.
Oh, I love it so much. Like,
it's very graphic.
She's like locked in like a room of mirrors, basically, and it goes so long. And like the one where like her jaw gets like pushed out of place is so uncomfortable. It's real good, and it's like it takes a minute where you're just like, what, like. Because, like, something happens to, like, her side at first, and you're just like, what the fuck is happening? And then all of a sudden, like, I forget, like, some limb gets fucking knocked out of place, and then she gets, like, smashed into the mirror, and...
Yeah, like her leg buckles, and she gets kind of ragdolled. I was like, oh, God, I don't like this.
Oh, no. And, yeah, it went on for a really long time, and there's, like, a lot of sound effects, and it's pretty gross.
And she pees herself.
Okay,
which, you know,
that part,
makes sense.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me because, like, that's realistic. I mean, having to pee into a cup, I guess, is realistic too, but it's kind of, like, hyper-realistic to me where, like, I know people pee, like, I don't really need to see an actress pee, especially because, like, compared to the original, this movie is like so sexual that like I don't really think there's just a lot. There's like a lot. Not even including like the last, 5 minutes of the movie, which I just was like, what is happening?
Oh, the stuff like
but
before the epilogue or whatever.
yeah. And there's a lot of Susie like humping the floor and like all kinds of shit going on. I think Olga is the only death that I wrote because then like what you have Sarah who so you don't really find out what happens to Patricia except for that she shows up as like a zombie.
Oh, you mean like
I
after
guess.
like that our first scene or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say, I can't remember. They say in the movie, like, as a line of dialogue delivered of, like, what happened to her, but I can't remember what it was. But they do say, like, what happened to her at some point. I can't remember what it is. There's, like, again, there's a lot of dialogue in this movie.
Oh my god.
Can we talk about how awful the makeup effects were? For, like, her as a zombie and that whole... like climactic scene at the end, like with Mother Suspiriorum and shit.
I don't. That whole ending scene, there's a lot of things in it, including the like makeups and the special effects that did not work for me at all. Especially because, like, you just have this like old naked lady just chilling with some sunglasses on. And I was like, what is that? What is happening here?
And their weird stomach hand.
And she had like a baby hand coming off of her arm too.
Yeah.
I was like,
like
what? Who is it? I did think the actual mother looked really cool. Like, she worked for me. Sarah worked for me, where she was like, sort of like in the middle of being like dead. But yeah, Patricia looks super weird. Everyone who explodes, like, that all looked really weird to me. Like, but I did like Blanc, like her going on with her, where she like half of her head was cut off or whatever, and she was like, "Ow."
Oh,
yeah,
so
that's
good.
pretty sick.
Tilda Swinton plays, like Marcos in that scene, right?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, so she plays 3 characters.
She's
in
Marcos,
this movie.
the detective, and
It's the doctor.
Madame Blanc. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the psychiatrist.
What?
Yeah, that's Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Holy shit! What the hell?
It's so good. She is fucking amazing.
That's insane. How's she doing that?
Being the best actress of all time.
I guess so. That's insane. That blows my mind.
I think the only men in this movie are the 2 detectives.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
so.
Yeah.
We don't even need to talk about it. They're terrible.
Okay.
Except for like when
Okay,
the dude
but-
gets like hypnotized or whatever.
Okay, yeah, wasn't expecting to see penises in this movie, and you see 2. Now I guess one of them's not real, but that whole scene was like did not need to happen. I'm just like, oh, jeez, gross. I guess the other thing that's, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else to say about deaths?
I don't know. I like that weird climactic scene. Like, I don't understand any of it, but I think visually it's cool and, like, I don't know, at least interesting. Like, it was one of the things in, like, the first watch, like, that scene and then, like, Olga's death scene that I was kind of like, okay, I'm on board with both of these because I don't know what's happening, but they are at least cool to watch and, like, something interesting happening that wasn't talking. And, like, I don't know, like, I don't know, I like it. I like that whole ending thing. Or at least that before the epilogue.
I'm gonna take a moment to complain about it.
Oh, that's fun.
Because I want to like it so bad, but whatever effect he does to make it like fucking half the amount of frames or whatever.
Oh, like when
Is
like people's
so
heads are exploding and shit.
awful. Yes.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then setting it to the song with Tom York fucking crooning, it's just like, no, just shut up, just let it happen in silence and at regular speed.
Yeah, I think that would have been. What? Yeah, it was really. I don't know. I guess part of
Jarring.
it. It is. Yeah, the whole scene was like super uncomfortable. I think the cuts in the frames or whatever didn't really bother me that much. Because I thought at the very end when Susie like stands up on that podium and she's like, "Yes, dance for me, you're beautiful." Like I thought that part was cool because the girls are all dancing and it's like red and like whatever. But like when everyone's getting like exploded and stuff and Susie like opens her chest, I was like, "What is this?" Like maybe it looked better in the theater? Question mark. I don't know.
Well, no,
Okay.
I agree with the like half frame thing because it just looks like a '90s music video.
That's my aesthetic, so
Like
you know.
it looks like when you see those videos where like somebody's standing there and they're still, but the background's moving around too fast or whatever. It kind of looks like that to me. But
Yes.
like, I think I don't know. Yeah, I agree with that. That aside,
So what you're
like,
saying
the
is
rest,
it looks like a Trapped music video.
I don't know if I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever heard a trap
Luca-
song.
Luca was too headstrong.
Back off, I'll take
I think
you on.
I think that scene. I think it could have worked better if it was like full on slow mo, I guess, as opposed to like the way it looks now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For
Yeah,
me, that's like a
yeah.
small gripe for me in that scene. I don't know. I like it.
It takes me out of it so much
Yeah.
because everything leading up to it is like, holy shit, what is happening?
Yeah, I
Like
can
this
see
is
that.
wild. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is taking a very strange turn and I don't like it.
I agree with Kit in that I really wanted to like it, and I do kind of like. I like the like sort of outline idea of it, but the execution for me was not great. I do like that, like, whereas in the original one you have Susie being like, "No, fuck this, you guys, whatever," kills like the head lady and leaves the school like burning and just like walks off and smiles, and like that's the end of the original. Whereas this is the opposite, where Susie's like, "Fuck yeah, I'm gonna be a witch," and so like it's the complete opposite. So like I did like that, but
Yeah, I like that, and I like the ending where like she's just like, no, I'm on board with this, and it also leads to like, I fucking love the scene of her, telling the fuck's the doctor's name, like Dr. Klemper.
yeah.
Yeah.
About like what happened to his wife. And like then just being like, all right, well I'm gonna like wipe all of this from your mind now, and then just like disappearing. Like I like that scene a lot.
For me, I sort of like didn't understand like the doctor being like a whole part of this movie. I didn't understand.
I think it was like, in my eyes, it makes it grounds it more in the real world than I think anything does in the original. Because if you're gonna tell this like ridiculous story about like witches, like I don't know, having somebody, I guess, sort of trying to be like, what the fuck's going on here, works for me.
Yeah, and I guess at least he's like trying to talk to the cops about these people being missing. But to me, it just like really took away from the actual story. And I'm a much bigger fan of movies ending like if the movie would have ended where Susie's like that with that scene where she's like up on the pedestal and she's like the queen now or whatever, and the movie just would have ended, I think would have been a lot more powerful of an ending to me than like what happened. Like I'm not a fan of epilogue kind of stuff. And so because I didn't really care about the doctor or like what was going on with that, I was sort of just like, okay.
I think knowing it was Tilda Swinton from the beginning, I was kind of like on board with it because I just wanted to see her do more of that.
So yeah, I don't I think that's like pretty much all the notes that I have.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else I was gonna ask because I didn't take like any notes. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what. Kid, have you watched like a lot of Giallo stuff?
I wouldn't say a lot, but enough to be, familiar with it.
Trying to think of some stuff.
Some Argento, a lot of Fulci stuff.
What Argento would you recommend to Katie past Suspiria?
I'd say my favorite of the ones that I've seen is Tenebra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
That's close enough. Something like that.
Tenebrae.
I think Tenebrae is how I usually hear it, but that also seems super American, so it's probably not the correct.
I like Tenebra.
Tenebra, I tell you what.
Yeah, there you go.
Video games.
King of it, or fucking Hank Hill, horror critic. Oh my god, he has 2 movies coming out this year.
Argento does?
Apparently. Or what? One is in.
Oh, what's the other one?
I don't know, something in Italian that's in pre-production, and The Sandman that's been announced.
Oh, the other one is the one that I was talking about. That's called like
Occhiali, Neri, something like that.
Something about sunglasses or something.
Oh.
But I think his daughter's in it, isn't it? Isn't she?
The Sandman tells the story of Nathan.
What?
Uh-oh.
R.I.P.
I don't know if I want to see either of these. Anyway, yeah, Tenebrae is good.
It's got a wicked disco score.
Ooh. Definitely something up for something different as far as scores go, because like I said, I've been watching a lot of 70s horror movies recently, and the scores are very a lot of them are just super one note, sort of not or extremely loud for no reason, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. You can barely hear the dialogue over the kind of you know what I mean?
I'd say you could probably ignore anything following opera, except for you would maybe like his segment of Two Evil Eyes, where he does the black cat.
Oh.
Yeah, the bird with the crystal plumage and Four Flies on Grey Velvet are really good.
Yeah.
And then Deep Red, Inferno, Phenomena.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks like everything after opera you could probably ignore. And opera is kind of pushing it a little bit on where he starts to kind of go downhill.
I have wanted to watch Dracula 3D just because I've heard it's god awful.
Oh, if it's streaming anywhere, I will absolutely watch that. Watch his Masters of Horror, because it's real fucking terrible and weird. And
oh my god,
watch a fucking lady with a fucked up mouth give a blowjob.
That's the opposite of stuff I enjoy, but thank you though.
I appreciate the offer, but
it's real bad. I bought it on DVD without really knowing what it was, when I was just doing kind of a deep dive on Argento stuff before I realized most of his stuff in the 90s and 2000s is garbage, and it's real bad.
Man, I'm on board for Dracula 3D though.
I would absolutely do that for the podcast if it's streaming anywhere. Just because I have to know what an Argento vampire movie looks like, especially made in 2012.
3-dimensional is the answer.
This poster art is garbage.
Have Rutger Hauer in it or something?
Yes.
Yeah, he's Van Helsing.
Van Helsing.
Incredible.
Oh, of course, his daughter's in it.
Yeah, I saw that.
His daughter is the main actress in Stendhal Syndrome. I think that's how it's pronounced. And all I really remember from it is there's a scene where she's being sexually assaulted, and she's forced to kiss a dude with razor blade in his mouth or some shit. It just fucking bums me out.
Yeah, I don't really know if he's for me.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds
I
like.
think you would find interesting things in like a lot of his 70s and 80s stuff, because it's like a lot of the giallo stuff is extremely violent towards women regardless. But like a lot of it is kind of striking to watch, like movies. I don't know, like they're extremely good movies. They're just, I don't know, they're definitely not super fun with women.
There are issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, pretty well versed in that at this point.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much the horror as a genre in general, but except
Yeah.
for
Uh,
Jennifer's Body.
After you've watched some giallo movies, there's a movie making fun of giallo movies and all of the tropes called The Editor. That is fantastic, and I highly recommend it.
Ooh, I've never heard of that.
It's the same guys who did Manborg and Void.
I think that's all you
I
needed to say.
love Manborg so much. That movie is so good.
Yes, Manborg fucking rules.
The Editor.
Um,
Oh.
there was a movie that got announced recently that somebody was trying to make, like an American giallo coming up, and I can't remember what it was. I can't imagine that's gonna be good.
Um.
Let me see if I can find it. All right. So I don't know. Let me see if I while I'm trying to find this. Any last?
What is this movie that's Giallo that has Adrian Brody in it?
Oh, I think is that the Argento one? I think he directed a movie with.
Yeah.
It. I tried to watch it because it was streaming on something, and I made it about 20 minutes in, and I was like, I can't do this.
Oh, dang. Okay, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, any last thoughts from everybody on these? Recommend, I guess. Both, no, one, either.
Kid, you go first.
I'm gonna recommend both. I'd say prioritize the original, but I think there's enough good things about the remake to make it worth watching.
Oh,
Checking out.
real
kind of see.
real quick, not to interrupt. James Wan is making a new movie that is apparently his giallo movie. So pass.
Wow.
Oh Lord.
Anyway,
I think. Hmm. I think if you are, I mean, I hope everyone who listens to this is a fan of horror. I don't know, maybe some people aren't. I feel like if you are a fan and you haven't seen either of these, I think they're definitely both worth watching. Like together. I think if you're gonna watch one, I think you should watch the other because it's like one of those things where having seen both of them, I think adds a lot to the other just by the contrast of them. I think I definitely prefer the original. But again, that's only because I think, I've been watching a lot of that kind of genre. If you are somebody who only likes movies like Saw and things like that, I think probably the newer one is going to be more up your alley.
I don't even think those people would like the new one.
I didn't mean like
I know what you mean, though. Like
there's like a definite like I don't know.
you have
Yeah,
to like enjoy, because 70s movies have like a very specific aesthetic, as
Yeah.
just like 80s movies do and 90 movies do.
Right, and I think 70s movies are definitely not for everybody. And like I was saying, like not even I feel like a couple years ago I would not have liked either. Actually, I don't think I would have liked either of these if I would have watched them. Like I've just like watched so much more stuff now that's not like blockbuster kind of movies. So I feel like if you're the kind of person, because there's like the person that I only like action movies and I go see action movies in the theater, but then that's different than action movies that are like not blockbuster action movies. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like if you are somebody who likes horror movies that actually make it to theaters, like wide release, probably you would appreciate the newer one more. But I think I think if you're I think you should just watch both. I don't know that I would watch either of these again, to be honest. If I did, I definitely would rewatch the original, but I think I would rather just listen to the soundtrack, to be honest.
I recommend both. I like I. It took me until the second watch to kind of. I think you just have to unpack that like Suspiria baggage if you're like a fan of the original to watch the remake.
Yeah.
There's just because there's like I don't know, like it's just weird. Like Suspiria is a very specific title that like you could remake zombie movies and just do different things because it's just a fucking zombie movie. Like it's not like it's not like there's like I don't know. I guess maybe Return of the Living Dead would be an exception, but like there's not a lot of like originality, I guess, to a lot of the stuff that normally gets remade, whereas opposed this is pretty specific to that title. So like the first time I'd watched it, I was just like, this is not Suspiria. What the fuck is happening? So I think if you're one of those people that like I don't like remakes or you're like an ardent fan of the original, that I think you need to unpack the baggage of the name Suspiria to kind of fully enjoy the remake.
I really agree with you because weirdly enough, this made me rethink the Pet Sematary remake because when I saw it, I didn't like it at all. I've said before, I'm not really a fan of remakes, but I guess I'm starting to be a fan of remakes because I liked the It remakes. I did like the Suspiria remake, even though I didn't really have like that deep of roots with it, so it's not like but like going to Pet Sematary, which is like one of my favorite movies, when I saw the remake I hated it, but having watched these two and seeing how different they are and like appreciating how they were different, I was like, maybe I'll rewatch the Pet Sematary remake and maybe I'll actually like it, but jury's out on that. But I just thought that was like sort of interesting that so maybe if you do go in with a more open mind, you'll like it.
The difference is the Pet Sematary remake's not good.
I hate that movie. I hate it so much.
There's things where it's like the Evil Dead remake is really good. Like there are remakes that can be done well. There's just not a lot of them.
Yeah, no, I mean,
so,
I agree.
I'd say stick with that original thought on Pet Sematary.
At least I'm like open to maybe I'll rewatch it. We'll see. I don't know. I can't promise anything.
Just don't. Be open to it, but don't do it.
Okay.
Just watch like a couple scenes on YouTube of John Lithgow, and then you're good.
Yeah, just watch him saying "sometimes dead is better" on repeat.
Yes,
that's fine.
The ending to that was so bad. Anyways,
did you guys have anything you wanted to shout out?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I'm just gonna go ahead and recommend, if you like Suspiria or if you like 70s witchy kind of movies, I wanted to just shout out a few that I like. Obviously, I think I'm gonna stand by saying that Rosemary's Baby is like, that's not really a witchy thing, but it's like sort of around the same era, and it has like a lot of the same vibe that these movies do. And I know a lot of people think that it's overrated, but I absolutely love that movie, so I'm definitely going to recommend it. If you haven't seen it, I think it's a must. That is streaming. I'm not really sure what it's streaming on. So also on Tubi, which is where we watched the original Suspiria, is something called Satan's Club for Girls. I'm not going to give you guys any like description. You could just go watch it if you want to. And then also on Shudder, we have Season of the Witch, which is a George Romero movie. Twins of Evil, and then this isn't an old movie, but it's called The Love Witch, and it came out in 2016, I think. But it's like super heavy 70s witch vibe.
Oh, that's a current movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see people talk about that
It
all
just
the
looks
time
like it
on
was in the
Twitter, and I
70s.
just assumed it was a 70s movie.
No, okay, so I don't know if you remember, but I was like texting you when I was watching it, and it's like definitely super heavy 70s vibe, but then at the end, towards the end of the movie, someone's just like on a cell phone, and I was like, huh? Like a smartphone. I was like, so then I had to look it up, and yeah, it's a newer movie, but the vibe and the sets and like it just like literally feels like a movie from the 70s, and it's wild. So I recommend that. That's also on Shudder, and I think it's also on Prime for free. So those are my recommendations.
Do you got anything, Kit?
I'm just gonna say The Witch.
I need to give that another shot. I watched the first like 20 minutes and I was like, I can't do this right now, and then I just like never went back to it.
Everyone's gonna disagree, but I say it rules.
I think The Witch is like one of those movies that visually I like a lot. I don't care about the story.
Well, I'll watch. I'll rewatch it.
All right.
You should definitely watch that instead of Pet Sematary remake.
Yeah, I would heartily agree with that. Knowledge fight for the 4th week in a row. No, that's literally all I've done.
How many hours of that do you have left?
20,
or how many days? I mean,
23, I think.
Oh my god.
Well, because what ends up happening is like when new episodes of the other podcasts I listen to come out, I listen to those first and then just like go.
Yeah, I do that too.
That's basically all I've been doing has been listening to Knowledge Fight. I got a stack of CDs here, so I'm just gonna grab something in the middle, see what it is. I'm gonna recommend that. All right.
Insert quote that I'm not gonna say out loud, but you know what I'm thinking.
Shut up. Okay, so listen to Adam and His Package, A Society of People Named Eliu. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's my recommendation.
I back it.
I love Adam and His Package, so.
So good.
All right, so next week, what are we doing? Silver Bullet next week?
It began in May, and every month after that, whenever the moon was full, it happened again. And again.
What was that? It's over there. Don't point that at me.
Nobody knew who or what was responsible.
Come on.
They only knew it had to be stopped. Now, from the master of mystery and suspense, Stephen King's Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet, the last glimmering hope.
Yes, did we announce what
I think we
that
talked
word?
about it, but March we're doing Stephen King month again.
It's Stephen King month again.
Tentative outline is Silver Bullet, Dead Zone, Graveyard Shift for Kit's birthday.
Graveyard shit.
Kid's gonna talk like that the whole time.
Writing the
I'm gonna try my damnedest.
be the one where you guys just do a drinking game. Writing the Bullet and then Cell. But I say tentative because I possibly moving some point during that month, so we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
Mystery month.
Yeah.
It's like a surprise if we end up recording every week because of technology. So
I mean, I'm fully on board if we have to, maybe doing like doubling up.
8
or something,
hours of Stephen King in one day.
I have no idea
God.
what Cell is about, but I saw it had the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score of any Stephen King movie, so now I have to know what that's about.
Murder of cell phones, bro.
Oh god, I hope so.
I mean, all you need to know is, yeah, cell phones and John Cusack.
The fact that it's got like a 20% plus score less than like Maximum Overdrive and like Dreamcatcher tells me everything I need to know about how shitty this movie's gonna be.
Yeah, I
forgot
think
it's a movie.
I didn't know it was a movie until I just looked up Stephen King movies.
I am familiar. Like, I remember when the book came out, but I don't know that I ever saw the movie or. I mean, I've seen. I don't know. Who knows? I've seen a lot of these, and I like literally don't remember any of it except for like Silver Bullet. I watch that's one of my favorites. So like I've seen that one a lot, but the other ones will be a mystery. When we decided to do Stephen King month again, I was like, I really don't know if we can top the movies that we picked last time, because those were truly some of the craziest. Like, you can't beat Maximum Overdrive and like Dreamcatcher and Thinner. Like, you just can't, as far as like off the wall. Like, so
Insanity.
yeah. So we'll see. I mean, there was a lot of movies that I wanted to do, but a lot of them are not available. So
I'm excited because I think the only one on any of these I've seen is Silver Bullet. I may have seen Graveyard Shift, but I don't remember any of it if I did. So I'm excited to suffer through some of these. I feel like I see a lot of shit about Riding the Bullet not being good, so I'm kind of excited to see what that's all about.
I aside from Cell, because I genuinely haven't seen it, I don't think we'll be suffering as much as we did, and I don't know that I'll be reading the companion works this time around like I did last time, so we'll see.
Katie and I, when we were trying to like figure out what movies we're streaming, we're joking about just doing the entire month just doing Mick Garris Stephen King movies.
Oh, Christ.
But like pretty much that just means that we all like fucking having to watch like 8 hours of fucking miniseries for each episode.
Yeah.
We'll be doing like 4 months. Like a month and a half is The Stand.
Yeah.
Which I think they're in the process of remaking right now.
They are.
So
I saw something announced today that Fiona Dourif got cast in it.
goodness.
So
Cool.
that's kind of side. I don't know. I'm interested solely for the fact that I remember reading that like Stephen King is rewriting an entire new ending to it.
Okay.
So, like, I guess it's... I saw some story that was either, like, that he's writing a new ending for it, and it was either what his original idea he wanted it to be, or, like, it's either that, or just, like, looking back on it, what he thinks it should have been, so it could go...
Good. Because the ending was dog shit.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean this was going to be better.
Oh, it's not going to be better, but
I
it'll
mean,
just be different dog shit.
yeah,
He's not
maybe
very
he
good
can
with
just...
endings, so...
No, not at all.
As long as it's not literally the hand of God reaching down to stop them, I'll be all right, I think.
What if it's the hand of the devil coming up?
He's like, I gotcha there.
I hope
Really
that
came
was
to the left
No
field.
idea, but like the Bible Belt wouldn't buy the book if that's what it was.
I hope it's...
God.
I hope it just, like... is revealed that, like, whatever the sickness is just from the shit weasels spread it.
Start that cinematic universe.
Yeah,
I like it.
Uh,
I want the shit weasels to be a part of more stuff.
same. All right. Leave us ratings and stuff on iTunes. We're needy. Tell us things. Tell us things you like about us.
Please.
You can follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer and Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can listen to Kit's other podcast, Riff Raff, when new music eventually comes out.
Someday.
Yeah. Should just do an episode on like what you guys are currently listening to and have it just be like Orville Peck and fucking whatever weird
Just all country.
metalcore shit Pat was posting about the other day. Like A Life Once Lost or whatever. Follow Katie on Instagram at werewolfface and buy her coffee at ko-fi/werewolfface.
I had people ask me about that, and so I guess maybe I should explain it. It's not, you're not like literally buying me a coffee. It's just like another social media platform for people to post. So it's like artists, there's a lot of horror like writers and stuff like that, and like producers on that site also. And so you're basically supporting people's like ability to create art, and so they're kind of like micro donation sort of, but it's like the price of a cup of coffee. So you could do like a $3 donation, you're buying someone a coffee. There's like a couple different sites that do that, but yeah, so that's what that is, instead of just being like, please Venmo me for no, you know what I mean, like
DM me and I'll give you Katie's address and you can mail her a box of coffee. Just
I mean, I do actually really like coffee, but
pour a coffee into a box, mail it
into
to
a letter, into an envelope.
Yes.
So
yeah, you could
please and thanks.
do that, and then listen to my other podcast, Let Me Be Your Pot of Love. That if we could get by these fucking stupid technical issues, we will record an episode soon. Technology is not in favor of either of my podcasts, apparently.
It hates us.
Other than that, watch Silver Bullet for next week. That's all I got. Alright, I hope you suffer, but why?
Witches.
Tom York recruiting.
You're a tiny bird in the sky.
I'm gonna go listen to Kid A.
I did actually did not know that was him at all, to be honest
late in the
with you.
episode recommendation, listen to Radiohead.